Not to one up my good friend, Representative Gainey, and his one daughter. I have two daughters that have graduated from Slippery Rock, one just recently in December, and is gainfully employed, so she's off my payroll. Thank you for that. And also following up with Representative Gainey about talking about affordability, and that is a big deal. As a parent who's written the checks for the last several years, affordability is a big deal. And some of your comments earlier, Chancellor, I wanted to follow up on in response to Representative Fritz about closures, and since Representative Gainey had brought that up as well. You had mentioned about something that may have prohibited closures would be debt. And help me, because I really don't know the answer. Is the state system's debt the system's debt, or the individual college's debt, or the Commonwealth's debt? Because I'm not exactly sure that. I know we have $5 billion on our books.
So my understanding is that the obligations of the system are first and foremost the system's obligations, but if we go out of business, I think we hand some of that debt off to you.
And I appreciate that, but at the same time, and I'm not advocating for closures, but just the accountant in me always wants to see things. Have we ever analyzed closures to the point of, yes, it's going to cost some money. We understand it's going to cost some money. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But the continual bleed that may be happening by some of these colleges or universities, have we ever done that comparison?
So the answer is yes. We have analyzed the cost of closure, and I'm happy to share those data.
I would appreciate that.
And I think I said earlier that some of our small schools aren't. While closure, I do not believe is the viable thing to do, either educationally, financially, or frankly politically. I also said that some of our universities are going to have to change transformatively, fundamentally. I think I said they cannot look in 4 or 5 years anything like they look today in order to address the issue that you just raised.
And I appreciate if you could share that information. I'm moving on to another question that Representative Fritz had asked you about capacity. I appreciate your answer that we have a capacity issue in the Commonwealth. And the issue I'd like you to comment on is because not only do we fund the state system schools, we also fund the state-related schools. Yeah. And now it seems like we've gone from a transition of serving different potential clienteles to competing with each other. Yeah. When you talk about a shared system amongst yourself, has there been any discussion about a shared system, since we're funding both? And I almost feel bad that I'm feeling like I'm funding my own, people competing against each other and driving up the cost.
So this is a major education public policy issue. I know there are members of the House and the Senate who are interested in taking it up. It can be addressed through education finance. It can be addressed through education public policy, rationalization, the stuff they did in California in the 1960s. I think it needs to be done in the state of Pennsylvania. I say that as a newcomer and as an education public policy guy. And I think you'll find that leaders in the sectors are willing to engage in that conversation. I think it's a very important one to all of us. I would just add into the mix that it isn't just through appropriations that you're supporting a variety of different institutions. It's also through the use of FIA dollars, because they're spread across, as you know, across all sectors. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that the legislative issues you were referring to earlier, legislative changes you would need to see, or?
So no, the legislative changes that I was referring to earlier are the ones that would specifically affect the Pennsylvania state system. Okay. There are others that, there are two different conversations. One of them has to do with what I would call master planning for state higher education workforce alignment, which is a multi-sector, cross-sector activity which is designed in effect to align education supply with workforce demand and demographic need. On the other hand, there's a bunch of legislative and regulatory issues that affect the efficient operation of the state system and its universities, and those were the issues it was those legislative and regulatory issues that I was addressing previously.
Well, I hope going forward that there can be a robust discussion in regards to that. It just seems like we're competing with ourselves at times and driving up the cost of education for all. So I wish you luck.